welcome back to Balancing Acts. We're talking with Dr. Rivers, the CEO and founder of Emera Solutions, a post-surgery, post-anesthesia transportation to help you get back from the doctor without asking your relatives for help. Let's talk about financing again. Financing a small business. Most of my students in my Grow Profit Scale workshops across the country are very reluctant to borrow money, to get a credit line. They do use credit cards. And oftentimes we bring in a banker, which I think today there are more educations, there are more banks willing to say, what does it take? What do they look at your credit? And it's not just your business. They're going to look at your personal credit too. But walk us through when you first applied for a loan, and I think you mentioned already getting rejected, but would you have approached them differently? What are a couple things that would have made that change, and when did you finally go for financing?
It's so interesting that you say that, Linda, because I was very innocently going to the bank thinking that I can apply for a loan because I have a business. And it's a great idea. And we all believe that our services or product are a great idea. Right. And I was getting rejected, and I was like, okay, what did I do wrong? At that time, I went to the Goldman Sachs program, which is a 6-month program, totally free. You have to, I think, make at least a minimum of 150 revenue a year to qualify, and you have to go through several interviews to get into the program, but I did. And so I brought up that conversation, and I said, what do I need? And then they told me, your credit score has to be here. Check your credit score. Also, you have to be bankable. And I was like, I never heard you have to be bankable. What does that mean? And they're like, you have to build a relationship, be bankable. And your credit score, and if you have collateral, if you have service, you have to prove that the numbers are there. But back to the CPA. Yes. I mean, back to the CPA. Had I had one at the beginning and they saw my numbers, they would have said, position yourself this way. Yes. Your numbers have to look a little bit like this, so that, because you're going to need these books, these numbers, you're going to need them forever. Even if you're at 20 million, you're going to need these numbers forever. Right. Because at one point you're going to want to sell, or you're going to want to buy. Merger or acquisition, right? If you get to a merger acquisition, these numbers still have to be healthy.
Yes.
So I encourage every entrepreneur to start looking at their numbers. CPAs, you can get them now by fraction CPA, right? You can use them at least every quarter as a consultant for very minimum. You could do so many things. It's not just they're going to take all your revenue and you're not going to have money to pay the bills. That's not what a CPA does. And so I call them the doctors of the numbers, of your numbers. That's what I call them. You need a doctor, right? Everybody needs a doctor. We all go to the doctor. We all get checked up. Why do we do that? Because our health is important, right? Well, the doctor of your business is your CPA. And you got to find the right one. Build a relationship with that CPA and tell them, listen, this is my service. This is my company. Tell me what I need to look like. So when I go to the bank, they look at it and say, we like what we see. You're bankable.
Right.
And then take care of your credit, because unfortunately credit is everything, right?
Yes.
But I did get rejected multiple times, and I didn't understand why. Today, I found out through, again, my dissertation of, when I did my doctorate degree, that it wasn't a Elena thing. It wasn't a lot of women are still some of them going through this, and Latinos as well. So now they're being smart, and they're like, okay, we're going to have to, we're going to have to help these companies out, because they are growing in numbers and they do need our help. And so there are also grants. You got to take your time, but there's also free grants. Yes. There's also pitch competitions, right? There's pitch competitions where WeBank offers with, I'm a counselor, I'm an advisor for the WeBank for the pitch competition. So I talk to the entrepreneur or the founder, and I'm like, pitch it like this, do that. But they're going to give you money if you win, 20,000, 10,000. Hey, that's something, right?
Yes, right.
Even though we burn through cash very quickly, that is something. At least that's money given to you for free if it's a pitch competition. Right. There's an organization through WeBank called LISC, and I just found out about it. And they give grants for 0 to 1% interest to women.
How do you spell that?
LISC, LISC. And I just had a conversation with them, and they're not traditional bankers, but if you qualify because you're a woman, minority owned, 51% owned, and all these things, and they look at your profit and loss, they will give you money. And this comes from pharmaceuticals who say, we might not do business with you, but we want to see you grow. So we're going to put some money over here, allocate $35 million for women entrepreneurs that qualify, tap into that money, 0 to 1% interest at a 7 to 10 year loan. I didn't know that. I just found out that not too long ago. So there are programs like that, but that happens because you get involved with the chambers, the local
Right.
and the national. You get involved with WPO organizations. Networking is not about network, it's your net worth, right? The bigger your network, the bigger the ecosystem, the bigger your leverage is, because you're gonna run into someone who has the answer to help you for the next step.
Exactly. And I think what's also very important for business owners to understand is the difference between cash and profit. Dr. Rivers is talking about, understanding your numbers and your credit score and why a bank would turn you down. But you got to ask your CPA, what does that mean, cash and profit, right? If you don't talk about that, a bank is not going to give you money if there's not enough cash flow to pay the interest. Frequently, business owners say, I want to pay the lowest tax, I want to pay the lowest tax.
Yeah.
But that means you don't have a profit, or you might wipe your profit out. So you have to understand it, and there has to be a story to that when you go to the bank. And now, unfortunately, you learned after being turned down multiple times. And hopefully the things we share today with our audience will help them avoid that. I want to move to talking about getting help. So when we first I started my business. I've had multiple businesses. I was a bookkeeper before a CPA. I got many people dropping off shopping bags of receipts at midnight, the night before something was due.
Oh, so you've had that experience.
I've had many of those experiences, and I didn't fire them right away until I learned that they had to get their stuff together. But how did you find help? I didn't have help at the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't have an assistant. What was the first hire you made?
First to hire was the bookkeeper. The bookkeeper, because that's another thing. You start and you say, I'll take care of my books. No, you cannot take care of your books. That's like saying, I'm sick and I'm gonna heal myself. Well, that you can do a little bit of it, but you can't really heal yourself. You need that specialist. Yeah. So the bookkeeper is probably the cheapest, but you still need the CPA. So I go back to the CPA, and going back to cash flow, a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't understand to take 10% for cash reserve. From your business, take the 10% cash reserve aside for those rainy days, if you feel comfortable doing that, which you should. And then just making sure, because you see the CPA is the one that's gonna tell you, have you tried this? Have you tried about, well, what is your goal here? Well, my goal is to sell. Well, to sell, you have to have healthy numbers. Right. Well, I don't wanna sell. Well then, okay, let's just keep the numbers less, because you wanna pay less in taxes. And they help you from tax problems. The one identity that you do not want to mess with is either IRS.
Correct.
You do not want to do that. Don't play with that. Don't cross it. Don't cross the line to that, because that's dangerous territory. You can do anything in your business. You can do this and you can do that. You can call all the shots. But when you mess with the IRS, you're really taking a big risk. Yeah. And the CPAs are the ones to make sure that you stay out of trouble. So for us, the bookkeeper was first, and then I found the CPA, which was a local CPA, which we've had for many years, but I think I'm outgrowing him, and it's okay to outgrow your CPA, right? That's a healthy conversation to have. You might have a CPA who, it might not work for you because there is a chemistry that's not working together, because you're not following the advice that the CPA is giving you. It's important to listen to your CPA, but it's also important for you to build that relationship with the CPA. Right. So that's important, understanding your numbers, understanding your cash flow. A lot of people use, maybe you correct me on this or not, but I've seen many entrepreneurs that use one credit card for their personal and for their business. Pow, pow.
Right.
Pow, pow if you're doing that,
exactly
right? Separate it.
Right.
Keep your receipts. Oh, well, I have some receipts in the car and in the truck. Keep your receipt. Be organized. Right. Because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? So if you're not organized with your paperwork, how can you be organized with a contract? How can you be organized with payroll? How can you be organized with systems and process, which is also another thing that I always advise entrepreneurs. Do you have a systems and process? They're like, what does that mean? I said, do you know how to, if you were to leave today, if I hand this manual over to Susie over there, would she be able to do it? Well, I just know how to do it up here. Okay, well, up here doesn't work. That's not scalable. So organization skills is so important for an entrepreneur. Right. And a lot of entrepreneurs, we're not. Because we don't sit down and well, I do because, of my schooling, I was taught to do that. But a lot of entrepreneurs, they're just all over the place. Exactly. They just know how to, they have a good product, good service, but they're all over the place.
Well, they're technicians, right?
Well, they're technicians, that's true.
And systems and processes, you're right. I'm also a systemologist, which I help business owners kind of capture the way they do things now without getting too complicated
Yeah.
about, because if they're overcomplicated, but if you think about hiring that first employee,
Yeah.
if you get it out of your head
Yes.
on paper,
Yeah.
you'll be able to hire someone and use it to
And
train
you don't get
them.
frustrated and you don't
Otherwise,
fire them for-
you won't want to hire them, right?
Or you fire them and
Yeah.
they were like, well, I didn't know what I was doing.
Exactly,
Anyways, you
exactly.
fire me because I don't know what I was supposed to do to begin
Exactly,
with.
exactly.
And that's a big mistake. So you want to make sure that you are the person who has this vision, the protocols, the systems. With AI today, you could do so much. You could learn so much. You can get organized. It takes one AI to organize your calendar. It takes one AI to create a protocol.
Yes.
It takes one, all of that. So there's no excuses now. Now you just want to be lazy.
So now you can have an employee because you want help, right? But you can use AI to supplement it.
Exactly.
And we're going to get ready to take a commercial break. I hope you gained some insights during this episode about understanding your numbers, understanding cash and profit, and being able to work with a bank. When we come back, we'll talk about building partnerships.